Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. My co-host is Justin Baker. And as promised on today's show, we are doing the top 10 breakout players for the 2022-23 season. And Justin, I'm actually very excited about this list. I really enjoyed building this list.
Oh, okay. Me too, actually. We haven't done a top 10 in a while, so I was overly giddy.
Overly. I tried to make it like, oh, here's my number one breakout guy. Honestly, I didn't really make it as much of a like, here's the number one down to like this menial number 10 over here. I more or less, I'd say I have 10 players that I would most look to. So mine isn't necessarily built in any particular order. I'm sure that yours is because you're better than me.
Yes, I have 10 guys in order, and I even threw in a just missed because I knew you would love to see this player on the list, and I had a hard time keeping him off. It was
Nicholas Kubalabe Muchacho.
Yes.
That's it? That's who it is?
Not at all.
Oh, darn it.
But good guess.
Well, okay. Well, this is what we're going to do. Because you have a list and I don't, we'll let you, we'll go with your order. And then when I have, if we hit on any of the same players, then I'll throw mine in. And then any that I have that are left over, we'll go through those.
Okay. I love it. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. First off, how did you determine, what was it that made you go, yes, these are breakout players, and no, this guy's not a breakout player? What was your criteria?
Yeah, so really I looked at guys that look like, last year I looked at some players that broke into the league maybe for the first time, and I saw something there where I was just like, you know what, I think this guy's going to be just a special player, the way he plays, the way he is able to move the puck in and out of the zone, or the way he plays the game defensively, or the way he stops the puck, et cetera, all these little things. And then I also looked at things like, okay, is he going to get more ice time opportunity this year? Did he get some new players in the offseason that are really going to help him, just take his game to the next level? Like, for example, in our last show, you mentioned Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus, and that was a team you looked at, potentially having a breakout player, because, again, when you add 100-plus point guy to a team, somebody else is going to benefit from that, right? So if you have a guy who maybe has been just kind of floating around that potential of, taking the next step, that's kind of some of the things I looked at. And, again, to whether or not the team as a whole as well is going to improve or, go the opposite way, really.
Okay. Well, the way that I did mine, I have kind of a mixture of, obviously guys who maybe are going to potentially be in their rookie season in the NHL. Those guys are going to be breakout players. The really good ones have the potential to be breakout players because they've never played before, and that team all of a sudden has this player. That's a breakout player. But then also I have some players who have definitely performed in the past. It's not as if all my players are guys who he had 14 points last year and next year he's going to have 70. Mine are a good mixture of players who have maybe not necessarily have been there before, but players who have put up good years in the past or a good year, and it looks like they might take the next step into that elite level. So I have kind of both and on my list.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, I also looked at didn't mention it either, but I did look at a lot of rookies, guys who are going to get their first crack at a full season and see what they can do.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's go with your just missed.
Yeah, my just missed is Timothy Liljegren from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's. I've been itching to see this guy take the next step, and I think this year he's going to get a lot more ice time. I think you're going to see him probably on that top pair with Morgan Rielly. I feel like that's just going to be an interesting combination that could potentially be a windfall for him to cash in on some good offensive production.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to take TJ Brody's spot up there with Morgan Rielly, because that seemed to be a very popular pairing there. But if he certainly could take Justin Hall's spot on Muzzin's right side. If Muzzin's healthy, Timothy Liljegren would be, I think, a good partner for him. At the same time, you may also partner him up with Mark Giordano, which is the same idea that you're talking about here, is that he would probably benefit offensively from having him on the left side. So, yeah, I would agree. I mean, no matter who you put him with, Riley, Muzzin, or Giordano, he's going to have a pretty good time playing with one of those guys. So it's
absolutely.
And the hope, I think, with Liljegren is that he signed a 2-year deal, $1.4 million a year. He got in 61 games. He only played 2 playoff games. So I think the hope is that he takes that next step and he becomes a regular. And then come playoff time, he's one of the top 6, and that he's playing the entire playoffs. I think that would be a huge step for him. Do you find that defensemen are harder to kind of pin down for something like this? Where,
yeah,
especially
absolutely.
If you have a guy who's a huge offensive star like Makar was, but that's like a once in a generation kind of defenseman. So it definitely is harder to drop the defenseman into this list because they don't have the obvious counting stats and maybe the sexiness of a forward, like a potential top 6 forward that could be in a lineup. But
yeah, completely agree.
Okay, let's jump right into your list. Numero 10.
All right, number 10. I looked at Columbus and Johnny Gaudreau, and I thought, you know what? Hey, Jack Roslovic, their number 1 center from last year, is a guy who I think is going to benefit early and often from potentially centering that top line with Johnny Gaudreau. I think he's going to be their go-to guy at center for what they're paying him. And I think, Cole Sillinger, I'm not quite sure if he's, a true centerman yet. And Kent Johnson, I think he still needs a little bit more time to develop before taking over that number 1 role that I think they ideally drafted him for. So for me, I think Jack Roslovic could be a guy who could easily put up 70 points this season, going from, his typical 40 and really catapulting himself into a top 6 centerman, conversation.
Yeah, I had him on my list. 22 goals and 45 points last year, and now he gets to play with Gaudreau. So I put him as Elias Lindholm Part 2 is what I put here in my notes.
I love it.
I mean, he's poised, right? Like he had a really nice year this last year where you actually look at his underlying numbers and you say, there is a potential for like a Ryan Johansson type of player here. Not necessarily a number 1 centerman on a team that is going to win the cup, but he can be a, top 30. He can be somewhere in that 30 to 40 range in terms of centers in the NHL. If he has the right players around him, and what do you know? He's got a freaking good player around him.
They've got some
2 of them actually
good wingers. Yeah.
Or you can always, Line A could be, who knows what'll happen in terms of where if Line A and Gaudreau mesh together, because Line A is definitely going to want to shoot the puck. I know, Gaudreau, 40 goals last year. You think he's going to want to shoot the puck too? That could be a potential chemistry clash there. Will Line A and Gaudreau actually play well together, or is that going to be a little bit too much of I want the puck and I want to shoot? We'll see. Either way, you would assume that power play would be pretty dangerous with those 2 on it too. Okay, let's go to your number 9.
Number 9, I have Cole Perfetti.
This is
from the
funny.
Winnipeg Jets.
This is funny. I have him on my list too. I only have 10 guys on my list too, and we did not see each other's list before this. So
2 for 2.
What made you put him on there?
So I look at a guy like Blake Wheeler. Really was the biggest, I think, reason that I put Cole Perfetti on here is, Cole's stock is going up, Blake's is going down, and I think between Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think he's going to have an opportunity to play on a top 6 with either one of those talented centermen. So when you add that up and then you put Kyle Connor or Nikolai Ehlers on the other side, there is so much opportunity for him to succeed. And, they've got new coaching in there too. So maybe things open up a little bit and they play a little bit more offensive minded game. And it feels like to me, like, he's ready to break out. And not only that too, but, I was reading The Athletic and their top prospects page right now. I mean, he's listed at number 8 in the top 50 there. I just think he's got really crafty hands. He seems like he's the modern type of playmaker where he just comes up with that weird and crazy stuff, like Trevor Zegras, right? He's just exciting to watch.
Yep. And the thing about Perfetti is that he's not going to take away from the Ehlers or from Scheifele because he's not that much of a he's not a sniper by any means. He's definitely someone who's going to put up the A's over the G's. You know what I'm saying? So so I think he'll come into that lineup and fit the vibe. It's not as if he can't shoot, but last year in the 18 games played, he had 7 points. In a minimal role, I think like less than 13 minutes a game, and he had 2 goals. In the AHL, 17 games, 6 goals, but he had 15 points, so he definitely has the ability to create offense for those around him. And also World Juniors, 2 games, 6 points for Cole Perfetti. So he's definitely ready to be at the next level. So yeah, I like that Cole Perfetti was on your list because he was on mine. So far, it's like you copied from my list.
Well, I have a feeling my number 8 guy is probably on your list as well.
Okay, so. All right, let's hear it.
I've got Owen Power from the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have him on my list, but not because I don't think he'll be a breakout player. I just didn't have him on my list. Because there's a lot, there's probably close to a breakout player for every team, right? Like, right. Every team's going to have somebody who does much better and frankly, much worse than you expect. So, Owen Power, tell me why he's number 8 on your list.
Yeah, 6'6". I mean, this guy's a beast, a tower, and I, watched. Obviously, being from Michigan, got to watch a lot of his games.
Do you want to start calling him the Power Tower? Then is that?
Oh, okay. I like where your head's at right now. We're gonna trademark that bad boy. I mean, look, as a defenseman, he put up 32 points in 33 games at U of M. I mean, he got to play with some talented players, obviously, Matty Beniers, Kent Johnson, Luke Hughes. We know who we got to play with, but I mean, there's no doubt this guy is, he's got a lot of talent, right? And so, everything he does is just smart. He doesn't turn over the puck. He doesn't make a lot of costly mistakes. He's very smart in his own end. And the great thing for him is he gets to play with a Buffalo team that is improving. They're much improved on the forward position, right? Guys like Peyton Krebs, they seem to be just getting a lot. Alex Tuck, they seem to be getting a lot better up front. And he doesn't have to come into a team being drafted number 1 overall and play those top 2, pairing minutes. He can be on that second line, that first or second power play and get opportunities. And he's still a little sheltered from teams' top, offensive units. So to me, this has just got the opportunity to be a breakout guy written all over it. Yeah,
it's actually a reason why I really like the Ilya Lyubushkin signing because I can see a situation where they play together. And Lyubushkin, definitely the more stay-at-home guy, but like he's going to throw hits, and that whenever there's a guy out there who can really hit, you're keeping your head up, you're looking out for that guy, and that may open up more space for Owen Power too. So I really like that signing for the Buffalo Sabres.
Me as well.
Okay, let's go to your number 7.
All right, number 7, I've got from the New Jersey Devils, Yegor Sharangovich, if I'm even pronouncing that right. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Sharangovich.
I thought about putting him on my list. I thought about it.
I mean, look, for me, he was a good. I mean, he was almost. You could consider him a breakout player last year. 46 points in 76 games for his second full season here. But I think he takes just another leap forward. Look, he had a great Olympic gold qualifier game, for Belarus, three goals in 3 games. I mean, this guy is a goal scorer in my opinion. And he's going to get an opportunity to play the whole entire year. Ideally, I feel like he's going to be playing with Jack Hughes at center, where I think a guy like Palat and Jesper Bratt might more or less fit better with Nico Hischier, be a defensive shutdown unit. But again, I think with Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier, he's got an opportunity to really produce this season, especially because those guys are both playmakers. They're not goal scorers. So Igor is going to benefit from that greatly, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, I had I think that's a good pick to have him on there. On mine, since I'm guessing you probably didn't do too many from the same team. I actually had Jack Hughes on my list.
Okay, no, he is not on my list.
And I have him there. I understanding, like, yeah, he had 56 points in 49 games last year. He had a relative breakout year, but first off, he wasn't healthy. He missed 33 games. And when you don't play those amount of games, you're not seen as, well, he still has yet to put up that big point, the 80 plus points in a season. And I think this next year, based on the players around him too, and the fact that you won't be able to just hone all your energy in on stopping Jack Hughes, I really think that he is in a position, he's going to put up close to 100 points, if not 100 points, and he's going to score 40 goals. And so I think that he's poised just for an absolute monster of a year. If they make the playoffs, he's probably going to be talked about as a potential MVP candidate. But I think regardless, you're probably looking at the next Lady Byng trophy guy. 49 games, 56 points. He had 0 penalty minutes this last year. So if he continues that trend, and he puts up 90 points and has 0 penalty minutes, there's your next Lady Byng winger, Jack Hughes. Winner.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Jack Hughes, speaking of which, I'm not sure what the status is for his younger brother Luke, but if Luke's in there on the back end, dishing him the puck, that could spell danger for some teams.
Yeah. All right, who do you have at number 6?
Number 6, from the Carolina Hurricanes, I have Seth Jarvis. I'm not sure if you got to watch him at all last year, but 40 points in 68 games, but towards the end of the season, and especially in the playoffs, he got paired up with Sebastian Aho on the regular, and it just looked like gangbusters. Those two just clicked so well that I feel like a full year with Sebastian Aho, and now hopefully Max Pacioretty on the other wing for the top line Carolina Hurricanes. I feel like this is somebody who could potentially have just a tremendous breakout year. I think, obviously Svechnikov was looked at to be that other guy to be on the top, line with Aho. But I feel like right now, the way he played last year, they moved him off Aho and dropped him down to that center line or that second line. I think with him and Teravainen on that second line adds a nice combination to give you a lot more depth scoring if you're Carolina. And so to me, Seth Jarvis is a guy who could really break out this season and potentially put up 60, 70 points, no problem.
Yeah, and when you consider that, he had a slow start to the season, he in a normal year, he probably would have been in a conversation for Rookie of the Year. It's just we had a lot of
20 years old, so
right, yeah. He had a really nice first year, and hopefully he can follow that up with without the sophomore slump that some players experience. Who do you have at what we had number 5 now, right?
Number 5, yeah. I have, if you recall, our mid-season awards. You gave this guy the Calder Trophy, and unfortunately he spent the rest of the year injured. But to me, I think a guy by the name of Anton Lundell is poised to break out and be just a phenomenal. I mean, in my opinion, he could be Bergeron 2.0 here. That's how good he is on both sides of the puck. He could be just a breakout guy this year. Now, what I will say is he won't have, as much help on his wing, with Sam Reinhart and, what's his name? Anthony Duclair's injured. So Sam Reinhart moves up to that second line. So right now he's slated to be between, Colin White and Nick Cousins. So maybe there's not as much offensive firepower. But I think the way he plays the game, I'm not necessarily looking at points when I look at a breakout player. I think this guy is going to be just the go-to young, defensive two-way guy who's going to show teams that, hey, you know what? Besides Barkov, we've got another fantastic center that can, be in that Selke conversation year in and year out.
Yeah, he did not have a very good playoff. He only had the 1 goal in 9 games in the playoffs. But his first NHL playoff experience, you can give him the pass for that.
Yep.
But yeah, if he can take that next step, and the Panthers do indeed have most really good teams, they've got 3 good centers, so he would definitely fit that bill, and the Panthers are cooking with gas, and bringing in a guy like Matthew Tkachuk, I think maybe really helps someone like Anton Lundell, because you could potentially have Lundell playing center and playing with Matthew Tkachuk in certain situations. And boy, that would be pretty interesting too, because both those guys kind of offer something unique and special.
To me, Lundell looks like, when Pittsburgh won their back-to-back cups and they had Jordan Staal at that third-line center spot, and he was that shutdown guy. This is what I see right now.
Yep. Okay, I like it. I mean, I'm sure he would love that. if he's the next Jordan Staal, he's not going to complain. All right, who's at number 4?
Number 4, I have from the Ottawa Senators, Brady Tkachuk.
Okay.
I would say that his brother's playoff was really his breakout. But the man could hold like 15 beers at once. But listen, 67 points in 79 games, kind of similar to your pick of Jack Hughes. I feel like he's poised to take even another step and be considered, one of those top 20 players, one of those guys that are just a reckoning and just you can't slow down, right? 30 goals. He seems like he'll just mow down everybody that gets in front of him. He plays with that kind of tenacity, and I feel like, again, now that he's got Giroux, DeBrincat there, he's got a lot more weapons around him. Even though he plays the left wing, he might not see a lot of 5-on-5 time with Alex DeBrincat. But
you can't just focus in on him, that's
right. Yeah, they've got more than one killer out there that you've got to, choose who you're going to put your top pairing against, and that will free up some opportunities to, this Ottawa team could potentially have 2 40-goal scorers in DeBrincat and Tkachuk next year. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, I have an Ottawa Senator on my list. It's not either one of those guys. It's Drake Batherson.
I love it.
If you remember, he was absolutely rolling when he got hurt. I can't remember what goalie it was that stepped out and tripped him, and he put him out for the rest of the year. There was that cheap play, and people were pissed about it. 44 points in 46 games, and this was for a bad team. And do you remember all the injuries that Ottawa was trying to deal with early on in the year too? This guy could put up 90 points next year, and he's good. He's a really nice two-way player too. He may be the most almost like the most ready player on this team to put up big points. Like Brady Tkachuk kind of brings something a little different to the table, whereas Drake Batherson, and he just plays, and I really think he's in a position to produce some big points and to kind of be that Jonathan Huberdeau style of a player where he just hits his stride and he ends up putting up big points, maybe somewhat quietly. But yeah, for him at the end of the, he's in his big deal. Like he still has 5 years left on this less than $5 million a year deal. And boy, what a steal that'll look like if he's putting up 80 or 90 points, which frankly he would have likely done had he not gotten injured, which I think is something that we forget about. So I think he'll start to get more recognition, assuming he stays healthy.
That is the key.
I noticed there's no goalies on your list so far.
There's one in here. Don't worry.
Okay. We got 3 left.
Got 3 spots left.
Okay. All right, let's go number 3.
All right, number 3. I had to put in one from Detroit here, and I've got Jacob Vrana at number 3, being my next breakout player. Now, I know maybe you could look back 3 years and say, he kind of broke out with Washington, 52 points in 69 games in 1920, but again, he was playing with some good centermen, back then. He was playing with Kuznetsov on that second line. Looked like he was, and Lars Eller, he spent a lot of time with those two guys and looked like he was poised to the next season take that next step, right? And ultimately Washington, didn't like his playoff performance, no points in 8 games, and felt they needed a change midway through the season. They go and get Anthony Mantha. He comes to Detroit, puts up 8 goals in 11 games, right? Looked great, 11 points. You think, okay, this guy's going to break out next season, right? Gets hurt, unfortunately. But in 26 games, puts up 13 goals and 19 points. And that's with a terrible centerman.
And missing camp and all that, too.
Right. And so, to me, now he comes in fully healthy at camp, gets Andrew Kopp to play with that center. Or maybe, you move Bertuzzi down with Kopp and you put Vrana on that top line. He's got 2 good options to play with that center now who can actually dish him the puck and play a good defensive game. So now they're going to help create space for a guy like Vrana to get open and just whale it on the wing there. And then not only that too, but on the power play, he could play on that second unit with a guy like David Perron, who is just known for just being a master on the power play.
Yeah, and they have Ville Husso in there to compete with Nedeljkovic, so I think their goaltending's better. They bring in Ben Sherratt, and Sider's going to take a step, and Simon Edvinsson, who is my breakout player for on this list for Detroit here. I think you're potentially Detroit back-to-back years. You've got a defenseman in the Calder conversation, so it's going to be there's a lot more stability, and when you don't have to worry as much about letting goals in, a guy like Verana, who you want him to score goals, maybe freed up a little bit, and that would be a wonderful thing for Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, who do you have at number 2?
All right, number 2. I finally put a goalie on this list.
All right, here we go.
Hopefully he's somewhere on your list too. But from the Dallas Stars, I've got Jake Ottinger.
That's a good one. I don't have him on my list, actually.
Okay, yeah, I know. Again, last couple of years he was splitting time. He wasn't quite the true number one. But I think after watching him in the playoffs, there's no doubt he's a breakout star this season. 7 games, a .954 save percentage, 181 goals against. The only reason the Dallas Stars won 7 games at all was because of this guy, and I think he's got a really great opportunity now. He doesn't have to worry about Braden Holtby, Ben Bishop, anybody else over his shoulder potentially stealing the spotlight. He's going to play 60-plus games, I feel like, this season. He's going to be that guy, and I think he's going to be right in that Vezina conversation. I think he's going to be, maybe number 5, number 6 right there in the voting when it's all said and done at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's going to be the one tricky thing there is, first off, he has to get signed, which he will. But the trade for Scott Wedgwood was a really good one.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like Scott Wedgwood, but he's obviously not anybody you fear about stealing your starting position. Now, what I will say... Sorry,
he was signed as a free agent. My bad. He signed as a free agent.
Right. But he still played for the Dallas Stars towards the end of the year, got 8 games in with them, but I still think he's a very capable backup who can give you 20 good games a season and fill in, if you do have injuries, of course. But
yeah, last year he got into 37 games. Is he great? No. In Arizona, he had a .911 save percentage. He was pretty good. Goals against average notwithstanding. He's a good backup goalie, and I don't know that you want Ottinger in his first full year in the league at 23 to be going over 60 games. I think your hope is probably that you can work him somewhere in that 50 to 55 range, have him really fresh for the playoffs, and have it, and that all assumes that this is a team that goes to the playoffs. We can talk about that on another show, but you may have to have him play 65 games to get them in the playoffs. I don't know, but this I agree with your pick for him to be a breakout guy. He's going to be good. He's going to be somebody you're going to want on your fantasy team.
Absolutely.
Overall,
there was another guy, in Dallas, Mason Marchment. I thought about putting in as a breakout player, but to be quite honest, he's not going to play on that top line with Robertson, Hintz, and Pavelski. So, what kind of Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin are we getting? And, is he going to fit in with those guys? So we'll see.
Put him down on the 4th line. Ben and Seguin can rule the 4th liners.
Rule the 4th liners.
Let's go to your number 1, and then we'll. Right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that you haven't said that I have on my list.
Okay, number 1 for me, and I think I have a feeling he probably didn't make your list, but to me, I just feel like this guy's going to be someone I'm going to take with maybe my second to last round pick in fantasy, and then he's going to produce like gangbusters for me. But that is Matty Beniers from the Seattle Kraken.
Okay, I'd say I have a similar player like that on my list, but it's not Matty Beniers.
Yeah, he was great in Michigan. Came to the NHL obviously at the end of the year after the college season was over with, and with mediocre middle 6 wingers, he managed to put up 9 points in 10 games. And this season, he's got Andre Burakovsky, Oliver Bjorkstrand comes over, could potentially play on his wing as well, and you've got guys like Jaden Schwartz and Eberle still there who can still produce. And the great thing is now a guy like Yanni Gord and Jared McCann can go play on that third line where they're best situated and best suited for, and be that shutdown line for this team, so he doesn't have to go out there and try to shut down top offensive lines either. So to me, this is a great opportunity for a guy like Beniers to really, come out and just take advantage.
Yeah, and just be able to play that like maybe a third line role and be able to go up against players who just aren't prepared for his level of skill.
And there's no pressure for him to succeed either, right? He doesn't have to come in and save the franchise, right? He wasn't drafted to be that guy. So.
Yep, I like it. All right, well, my similar player is Mason McTavish for the Anaheim Ducks. Very similar situation. He's definitely going to come in and play. I think the long-term outlook for this guy is that he's the number one center in Anaheim. The number two is Trevor Zegras. And, I mean, this guy's the ceiling is so high for Mason McTavish. He's going to be a very good centerman, and he may be it'll be like him and Edvinsson up for Rookie of the Year. It'll be tough. I think if he cracks that lineup, which I'm pretty sure he will, it's going to be tough to beat out a forward again. Like, it's not too often defensemen win that Rookie of the Year, so it'll be tough for it to happen again.
I don't doubt it either, and it wouldn't surprise me if they start him off on the wing as well to start the year. So if you get to play with a guy like Ryan Strome or even, like you said, Trevor Zegras, I mean, those are playmakers that are going to dish him the puck all day long, and I think his size and the way he plays the game is just going to be play very well for him.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. I have my other centerman. I'll get through my forward, and then I've got a defenseman, and I've got some goalies. Nick Suzuki from the Montreal Canadiens, he quietly puts up 61 points with a pretty terrible team, and all of a sudden, Montreal, I think it's a little bit better of a situation coming into this year. You got a full year behind Martin St. Louis as the head coach, and I really think that for Nick Suzuki, we might be looking at an 80-point year. And adding the players they did around him, they have Kirby Dach now as that second line center. I think it just opens Nick Suzuki up to really being able to kind of take this to the next level. And I mean, he's being paid like he's a first line point per game player at over $7.5 million. So it's time to show it, and I think that he will.
Yeah, I like that pick, and I don't disagree with you. I think we're going to see a lot more out of him. I think when Martin St. Louis took over, right, his production went up. And same with Cole Caulfield, right? Yep. These are two guys that are, expected to be the future for this franchise. And I think both these guys are going to produce a little bit more than they did last year. And again, who else is going to play with them, right? Is it going to be Mike Hoffman, Dadonov, or maybe Gallagher or Josh Anderson? Who knows? But I think either way, you're going to find, I think there's a good opportunity to find a good combination for a top line there that will produce for sure. Okay.
Defenseman. This is one of those true, who's the guy hiding in the shadows that nobody's ever thought about? Matt Roy for the LA Kings. Defenseman.
I love that pick.
He played a career high 21 minutes a night. He was second only to Doughty on average ice time. Of course, he got more ice time when Doughty got hurt. He is behind only Thomas Chabot of the Ottawa Senators, leading defenseman in goals below expected, which is, he was on the ice for an absurd amount of goals because I think he was just put into these situations. But they were getting 7.18 shots per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, seventh highest rate among defensemen. So he is on the ice producing offense, and he just kind of was unlucky at a lot of points. And I think that, when you're on a team, I know that they made the playoffs, but when you're kind of shoved into a role where you don't have a whole lot around you, those things can go wrong. But I think he's in a position, he's going to get a lot of ice time next year. He played well with it, and they produce a lot of offense when he's on the ice. So I think he's ready to take another step there for the Kings.
Yeah, I don't hate this one at all because I actually did think about him for my just missed category, but ultimately pick Liljegren.
I'm not mad about that.
But the thing I love about Matt Roy, right, is at this point, right, I feel like he's 27 years old. So, when you talk about candidates for a breakout year, right? You normally look at guys who are 21, 22 years old.
Right.
But he's had a lot more opportunity to develop his skill and being a 7th round pick, right? And being a defenseman at that too, right? Those are two things working against him where maybe you don't get those looks as much, as some other guys that were drafted in the 1st or 2nd round. And so you take a little bit longer to get that ice time to develop. And you know what? He had an opportunity last year with Doughty's injury and looked very comfortable doing it. And so I think, again, he plays a very good defensive style game. Now he's not going to bring the offensive numbers that Doughty does, but I think his defensive game is very, very sound.
Well, we'll say that Doughty did. I don't know that Doughty's putting up huge numbers nowadays, but okay, I've got some goalies to close out the show.
Oh, bring it.
My first one, probably somewhat. Well, you would probably say that he already had his breakout year last year, but I don't think he really got the credit that he deserved. And I think the team that he's on will be better this year, so I think he'll get a little more credit. That's Thatcher Demko. When you look at what Demko did for the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, he almost single-handedly made them not the worst team in the league. Like they would have been, they were awful, but he had a great year. .915 save percentage, and that's what he's done the last 2 years. .915. He still managed to win 33 games on a bad team. I mean, he was 7th in Vezina Trophy voting, so it's not as if people didn't know he existed by any means. But I think that this Canucks team is going to be even better, and I think that he walks into next year, and if he's winning 40 games next year and can bump that save percentage just ever so slightly, I mean, he might win the Vezina Trophy next year, which would be a huge bump. I think Vancouver's got probably a top 5 goaltender in the league, especially given his age at 26. I mean, he's got some great years ahead of him.
Yeah, he's definitely. I agree with you, but I think that his breakout year was last year. I think he is top 10 in this league, in my opinion. I think he's a phenomenal goaltender, but now he doesn't have a veteran backup. It's really falls on his shoulders. Yes, Spencer Martin's there to play backup, but is he a guy that's going to play 20, 25 games? That might be it. And so Thatcher Demko is going to have to play 60 games this season and really carry this team, carry the workload. And so again, they don't that defense is suspect for me. I think Luke Shin was a lot better than maybe some people thought. Tyler Myers looked all right, and maybe a full year with Boost Boudreau helps out a little bit, and hopefully they hold on to JT Miller and don't trade him, because there's a guy, if I was Vancouver, I would not want to, lose at all. And, same said with Bo Horvat, who's another great, two-way player who can still produce. So we'll see where they go up front there with those two guys. But all in all, I agree. I think Thatcher Demko is just a phenomenal player to have on this list. Whether or not you think he's breaking out this year or last year, I think regardless, he's going to have a fantastic season. He's
going to break out from his breakout year. That's what he's going to do. My last 2 players, I bumped them together because I don't really care which one does it. When you look at what Peter Mrazek did with the Leafs last year, he had an .888 save percentage and went 12-6. Okay, Jack Campbell had a terrible end of the year, and he still was winning games because they were winning 7-5. I think that Ilya Samsonov and or Matt Murray are both going to have breakout years, but maybe both, maybe one of them, whatever, because they're going to pile up wins. Because they're going to win even if they have a 900 save percentage. If they can have a 900 save percentage, that's still better than what Mrazek was putting up for them. And I think that it's likely that at least one of them will have over a 910 save percentage. And we'll look back at, doesn't matter which one, we'll look back at one of them and go, that ended up being a good move for the Leafs. And they got their goalie and they got him for cheaper than what they would have paid for Jack Campbell. I think Jack Campbell, well, he does have athleticism and he's a good goaltender. I do think that a lot of what he was able to accomplish in Toronto, and probably what he'll be able to accomplish in Edmonton, is that he's just in front of a really good team. And it's no knock on him. You still have to play well, but I think he's in front of a good team. So I think one of those guys are going to have a breakout year because of the team in front of them.
Yeah.
And it will build confidence.
So here's my thing, right? You talk about confidence and being able to win those 7-6 games. I think early on in the year, Jack Campbell looked really, really good for this Toronto team. And I think
first 2 months, he was like, he's going to win the Vezina.
Right. And I think a lot of that early on helps sparks confidence in this forward group to say, hey, you know what? We can go play a little looser, a little faster. We can shoot the puck a little bit more because we know we're going to get good goaltending back there, right? So I think, again, if early on Murray or Samsonov don't seem to stop the puck or they look like freaking, Swiss cheese over there, that might, cause players like Tavares, Marner to grip the stick a little tighter. Now, again, I still think these guys are fully capable of winning 5-4 games regardless who's in net, but there might be some times where it costs you a game or two because you don't want to take that chance. You don't want to, make that extra pass because you're worried about the turnover and the puck going the other way. So,
good Lord, sometimes they just needed to not make the extra pass. Just shoot the freaking thing.
Yeah, you could say that too. But I think out of those two guys, if I had to pick anybody, I like Samsonov to potentially break out and have a much better season than he did last. I don't have a lot of confidence in Matt Murray, no matter who's in front of him or how many goals Toronto can score. I don't think it's going to work out well, in my opinion, but I do think with a good offensive team and a lot of pressure off him to be the guy, Samsonov could potentially come in there and just have a 9-10, 9-12 save percentage type of year, and that would be pretty good.
Okay, we're gonna make a bet. We'll come back on the next show with what our bet is going to be. But we are going to bet something between who's going to be the better goaltender, Samsonov or Murray.
Ooh, okay.
I'm going to take Murray, and you're taking Samsonov, is what it sounds like. So we'll figure out a good prize for the winner, and we'll keep track, and then in a year from now, we'll pay up. So we'll come up with that, and then we'll now talk about it on the next show. But that is our top breakout players for the upcoming season. Pick all those guys in fantasy, you'll win. Just ignore Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. Those guys aren't breakout players anymore. So
who needs them?
Don't put them on your team. Justin, I hope you have a great rest of your day. To our listeners, enjoy the sunshine, and just it's okay. Hockey will be back soon. I know it feels like forever, but we're going to get some World Juniors at least. That'll be fun. I feel like I can actually watch the World Juniors because there's no hockey on, so it'll be a good time to watch. When does that actually come on? Do you remember? Do you know?
No, actually I don't. Off the top of my head, I'm embarrassed to say I don't.
Google will tell me. August 9th is when it starts. August
Beautiful.
9th to August 20th. So, not too often in the middle of August you get some good solid hockey. So that'll be fun. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And until then, we will talk to you guys later.